Y hola, buenas, bienvenidos una vez más a mi canal. Esta vez estamos con The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Vamos a darle caña, vamos a iniciar partida, ya lo hemos configurado todo. Ya le hemos dado un vistazo a todo lo que podíamos configurar, así que vamos allá. Vas a flipar. Bueno.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Va a tomar decisiones, ¿no? Entiendo. Ha dicho que salga de la oficina, ¿no? ¿Debería hacerle caso? Espérate ahí. Nada, no puedo hacer nada. Bueno, pues vamos a salir.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
No es muy raro, tío. De que no sé qué coño hacer. Porque suena como si estuviera tocando teclas. ¿Dónde coño se ha metido todo el mundo? Coño. Pedro, sigues ahí. Hostia, vaya luz, ¿no?
Stanley came to a set of two open doors. He entered the door on his left.
A la de la izquierda. Que no, que es broma.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Sigo. Vale. ¿Qué cojones, tío? Es que no sé, tío.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
¡Ey! ¡Casi, amigo!
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
No me veas hace varios años. La puta madre, tío. Ay, Dios. Hijo de puta. Era tan malo siguiendo indicaciones que era increíble que todavía no lo hubieran despedido.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time.
¿Puedo ir a esa?
Someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others?
Perdón.
Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful.
¿Me puedes abrir la puerta?
Let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
¿Cómo? Oye, ¿y no puedo irme para allá? O sea, ¿podía haberme tirado y haberme matado? ¿O algo así? Pero es que no sé, Pedro. Te estás riendo, pero no me dices nada. Entonces no sé qué coño hacer. Danger everywhere. Ok. No sé. No te rías, cabrón. Que no sé qué hacer. Es la idea. El no saber qué hacer. El ir investigando. Tú juegas.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
¿Y si soy disléxico? No. ¿Y si voy para atrás? Ah, pues no puedo. Ha dicho la roja, ¿no? Y si voy para azul, ¿qué pasa?
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked
Hostia.
through the red door.
¿Y dónde? Bueno, la roja, vale.
I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door.
¡Ah, claro que no! Sigue por la azul.
All right, fine. Go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there?
Sí.
You want to find out what lies at the end of this road?
Exactamente.
Well, don't let me stop you.
Vale, gracias por no pararme.
You see? There's nothing here. I
Vaya.
haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was
Sí.
it worth ruining the entire story I
Exactamente.
wrote specifically for you?
Uy, se está ofendiendo.
I think I put a lot of time into that, because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing, because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me. You've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what, let me take a stab in the dark at a new design, and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin.
¿Y si ahora digo que no? Bueno, venga, va.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here.
Un 3.
Oh, of course. A 3. Really? Maybe next time we can get you to form an actual opinion, you know? Any level of critical thinking or engagement with your surroundings?
¿Me está llamando
Does that
tonto?
sound good? Think we can do that? Yes? Wonderful. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
Me está llamando tonto, ¿verdad? ¿Y ahora qué pasa con esto? ¿Y qué me va a enseñar? ¿Dónde estoy yo? ¿Puedo seguir yendo para acá?
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please.
Vale, pues...
Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up. In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger.
Sí.
You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail.
Vale.
It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life.
Ajá.
I think the art world will really take notice.
Vale.
But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective?
4 horas.
Be sure to keep notes on your experience.
Vale.
You heartless bastard.
No.
Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me?
Adivínalo.
Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out. I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game? Just to ease the pain. Let's see. What do we have here? Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot. Fascinating. What do you think this game is about, Stanley? What's our backstory? What is our motivation?
Ay,
It seems
Dios.
obvious to me that you are meant to play as a creepy man spying on innocent civilians below you from up high in your creep tower, perhaps for some sort of twisted erotic
Un
purpose.
poquito duro, ¿eh?
Yes, that must be it. What a fascinating venture into the experience of total mental depravity. So far, I love everything about this game, Stanley. And
¿Quién?
it seems there's
¿Quién?
more. Come, let's venture outward and see what else
Who
is out there.
Firewatch the Firewatch. En plan, lo típico de quién vigila a los vigilantes, pues qué fuego vigila al vigilante de fuego o algo así. ¿Qué fuego vigila el fuego o algo así. Qué buenísimo. ¿Y ahora qué tengo que hacer? Porque se supone que este no es el juego que... ¿Y si zumbo con eso y petamos todo? Recuerdo que te gustó Firewatch. No lo he jugado, lo tengo pendiente. Es uno de los juegos que tengo pendiente de jugar. Del Firewatch. Del vigilante de parques. Así que estamos jugando a Firewatch en un ratito, ¿no? Me han dicho. Y, hostia, ¿me puedo atravesar todo? Hostia, qué guapo.
Oh, no. No, it can't be.
Que no puede ser. Supongo que este juego...
It is. It's an open world game. Good God, quickly, block it off. Oh, thank goodness, Stanley. What a close call. You nearly wandered off into that thing. That big, open, just wandering around. No right or wrong directions. No path to follow. You can just go in any... Oh, thank heavens we avoided it. We're out of the woods now, Stanley. Okay, I'm going to get us out of here. Let's find another game. Preferably something with walls. Something with nice, big,
No quiere...
insurmountable walls.
Pues mira, ya lo está jugando. Pero no puedo tomar mis propias decisiones. No puedo irme a donde me salga de los cojones.
This will be
O
just
sea, el juego me está diciendo que no debería de tomar mis propias decisiones. Hostia.
wonderful. See, this is exactly what I had in mind. Just a nice big box for you to run around in. There isn't any possibility that you could get lost here. Now this is game design. Stanley, if you manage to get lost in this game, I will be phenomenally impressed. Okay, so what exactly do we do here? Let's see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but obviously there's no racetrack. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a ball of some kind back here. Is this game sports ball? Stanley, I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun. We shall run the bases and do a touchdown together. Yes, I think surely we must. Okay, Stanley, here's the ball. Have fun. Hold on. What are you doing? Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me? You can't do it. You know that. Stanley, come back. We still have so much.
LOL, ¿qué pasa? Ahí va. Me he caído. Un poco creepy, ¿no? Cuidado con esta parte. ¿Por qué? Me seas cabrón. Tiene un par de buenos sustos. ¡No me seas hijo de puta! Me estás jodiendo, ¿verdad? De verdad. Te estoy vacilando, la puta madre.
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice, and if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon. I can wait.
¿Qué hacemos aquí? ¿Este que era uno de los finales? ¿Y si le seguimos la corriente?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Correcto. Y si recuerdas, dentro de ese camino tenías otro. Hostia, tú. No me jodas. ¿Cuántos caminos voy a poder hacer? ¿Y si hubiera seguido en el elevador en vez de tirarte? Hostias.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Vamos a la izquierda. Vamos a seguir el rollo. El rollo es fácil. Vamos a ver qué es lo que ocurre.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
How to solve a dispute with a coworker. Let the ball up inside you, take it out the passive aggressive of the other coworkers. Echarle la mierda a los demás, el hijo de puta, no que más sabe, ¿cómo entiendes? Monetize free to play. Qué hijo de puta, ¿cómo sabe meterse con los demás, Epa. ¿Esto?
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Si hubiera jugado al Rocket League.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
¿Y si voy para abajo?
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself? Believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility?
Creo que se está montando una pelota bastante grande, ¿no?
Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just...
¿Qué?
He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
No lo dice muy convencido. Hostia, pues sigo igual.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Vaya. Oh, vale.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Vale, otro final. Pero sigo sin entender.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Vale, vamos a seguirle el rollo y vamos a subir a lo del jefe, a ver qué es lo que... Vamos a probar.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Vaya. Vaya frase motivadora, ¿no? Para el jefe. ¡A puta madre! Bien.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him, and so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Qué oscuro, ¿no? Ah, pues no me puedo pirar. ¿Y si me iba en el ascenso?
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred
Es que no
to him?
entiendo.
This question would not go unanswered for long.
No sé qué hacer.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Son códigos aleatorios, ¿no?
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Joder.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
No entiendo una mierda, tío. Estoy todo rayado. A este juego le puedes dedicar horas. ¿En serio? O sea, por todas las que hay que entender. No sé. O sea, me puedo dedicar aquí a echarle horas y buscar finales y momentos y...
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
¿Otro final? Exactamente qué quieres saber, no sé.
And a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine. Unshackled himself from someone else's command.
Porque en los códigos... Que claro, hay 500 finales, tío.
And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange...
Este juego no tiene un objetivo claro.
But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Es que está el pasillo del escape, de pirarse, de la salida. Mira, he conseguido 2 logros. Termina el juego. Pero ese no es el juego, ¿no? No, tengo más. O sea, es que hay un montón de cosas, tío. Vale, hago lo de no saltar. Espérate, vamos a hacer lo de no saltar.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Pero no veas, ¿eh? La puta madre. La de cosas que se pueden hacer. Es derecha e irme para acá.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible.
Increíble que no lo despidieran hace varios años. ¿Y si me tiro ahí abajo?
I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Otro final.
I can't wait to tell this story to my coworkers, Stanley thought.
Y ya está, toma por culo.
They'll find it.
Ese era un final, venga, vamos.
Just laugh and laugh at the time I thought everyone had gone missing.
Uy, se ha cabreado, ¿no? Está cabreado.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art, but eager to get back to business.
Además, todavía tenemos que poder tirar por la izquierda. O sea, que esto es volver, básicamente.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about.
Me hace gracia porque lo primero que me dice Pedro al saber que es el Stanley Parable es vas a flipar, y yo a los 5 minutos, ¿qué mierda es esto, joder?
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
¿Y no me puedo tirar por ahí? A ver, ya hemos comprobado. Hay una sala que se puede abrir en la oficina. ¿En cuál oficina? La del principio. Ay, una coño, la puta madre.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another.
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Que te follen.
Sorry, but you're in my story now.
No. Déjame. Déjame. Hijo de puta. Qué remedio, ¿verdad? Ahorra.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
¿Cómo?
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
¿Y si no quiero? No puedes saltar.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped out from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly. So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line
que está dando una lección. Sí, de que no puedo elegir, ¿no? Que le voy a tener que escuchar.
And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end. That he might always
bueno, que me cuente su puta vida y...
Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
¿No te has dado cuenta? Sí, que se está transformando en mi oficina.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it. You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button.
¿Cómo?
And I tried.
What the fuck? Muere, por favor. ¿Qué cojones? Hay una habitación.
All
La
of his
oficina.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Dicen, me has dicho antes. Hay una sala que se puede abrir en la oficina. ¿O cuál es? ¿Esta a lo mejor?
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office. Stanley clicked on literally every single door in the office because he doesn't pick up well on cues from his environment.
¿No puedo volver a mi...? Pues ninguna se abre, Pedro.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Vale, le seguimos el rollo, ¿no? Porque ya las de la derecha ya lo hemos hecho todo. Excepto no seguirle la corriente y después seguirle la corriente. No, todo está cerrado.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an
¿Esta?
answer there.
Ya lo sé que...
Coming to a staircase,
Vale, vamos para
Stanley
arriba.
walked upstairs to his boss's office.
A lo mejor es más adelante. Entra y cierra. En esa ya ya entré. En esa ya entré y cerré, creo. Ah, espérate. Lo que voy a hacer es aquí... En vez de ir para la de control mental, voy a ir a la de escapar.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music. Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward.
Es que tiene muchos pequeños detalles.
Passageway.
Ahora, vamos para acá y vamos a la de escapar. Y si le doy a la de arriba, a ver. No, arriba no funciona. Sí, el puto narrador, espero que cobrase bien, me cago en la puta, porque madre mía, narrar todas esas frases, la madre que los parió.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
¿Cómo? Perdona. No solo se hizo de oro, ha ganado premios y todo.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Joder, pues imagínate.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Let's go. Ah.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Ok. Oh, ok. Ok.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
¡Ey! Está bien, gracias. Gracias, tío, por esa raid. ¿Qué tal, tío? Espérate, a ver, a ver, a ver. Espérate, que estamos un poco locos ahora mismo. Esta es mi oficina. Salgo. El diagrama de la oficina. Este plano muestra la oficina del comienzo del juego. El camino desde la oficina de Stanley hasta las dos puertas fue la primera parte del juego que se construyó. A lo largo del desarrollo se agregaron se modificaron distintas secciones, pero el diagrama fundamental es casi idéntico a la primera versión. Pasillo. El ritmo de la sección inicial era crucial para el juego. El pasillo se movió y se modificó para que los jugadores llegaran a las dos puertas en un buen tiempo. Aquí a ver un banco. Digo, vaya, qué gracioso está el niño. Las dos puertas. El escenario de las dos puertas abiertas fue la primera pieza concreta del diseño de Stanley Parable. Una vez que se creó esta habitación, el resto del juego surgió como una extensión, una exploración de la contradicción que se planteaba aquí. Archivadores. Los originales, entiendo. Computadoras de la oficina. ¿Dónde está Pedro? Estará por ahí. Búscalo. ¿Estos son los créditos? ¿Esto qué es? Lo original. Sonido de botones. La sección de los sonidos que se utilizan en el juego cuando se oprimen botones. En cada uno de ellos se combina un tono sintetizado con el sonido que se produce al presionar un teclado. La oficina. Quédate con los sonidos. ¿Por qué? Procede a pegarle una patada en el pecho. Take me home, country road. Diseño de modelo, arte original, música original, diseño de sonido, música adicional, voces adicionales, guión y diseño, desarrollo, dirección de arte, dirección de sonido, dirección de desarrollo y el impecable Kevin Brighting como el narrador. Desarrollo adicional, coordinación de control de calidad, administración de oficina, producción, desarrollo para consolas. Basado en la obra del equipo de Stanley Parable. Diseño de nivel adicional, programación, animación, apariencia de Stanley, administración del sitio web. Oficina del jefe. Reloj de la oficina. Sala de los empleados. Zona subterránea. Tomas de narración descartadas. Kevin Brighty, la voz del narrador, grabó el diálogo de todo el juego en 3 momentos diferentes a lo largo de los 2 años de desarrollo. Aquí hay tomas iniciales que no se utilizaron en el juego original.
And finally, he pushed the number 6. He pushed the number 8.
¿Vale? ¿Pero por qué a mí?
Stanley pushed.
Si las cortinas están en llamas, pues es porque quiero. Oye, ¿está bien el streamer este? Es guapo. ¿Sabéis que si tiene novio? ¿Cuál? ¿El de aquí te refieres? Final de la libertad. Esta fue la primera versión del final de la libertad en la versión alfa del juego. Escritorio de la cuenta regresiva. Uno de los escritorios de una versión inicial del final de la cuenta regresiva. ¿Final de la cuenta regresiva? ¿Cómo? Ascensor de los monitores. Vale, esto supongo que es el final de esta sección. Vamos a mirarlo todo porque ya que estoy. Prototipo del diseño del juego. Jesus. Una oficina. El cronómetro del apartamento. El montacargas. Ese no lo has conseguido. No, de momento no, tío. ¡Bum! No me lo imagino. Ah, y vuelve a lo original. Montacargas. Hostia, tío, hay de todo, la puta madre. Sala de reuniones. Primera opción. Obedecer, desobedecer. Staircase o long. ¿Cómo? Ah, para el ending confuso. O sea, hay una segunda opción. Primera opción. Obedecer o desobedecer. Dos opciones. Ventilación. Llamamos a mantenimiento. Los pasillos que vienen luego de las dos puertas iniciales eran importantes, pues los jugadores lo recorrerían muchas veces. Probamos con varios diseños, pero en definitiva ganó la versión más simple. Ah, que estos son diferentes versiones, pero la versión que ganó era la primera, ¿no? Que es la simple, que supongo que es la primera opción. Vale. Joder. Mira a ver si la sala de la derecha ponen aspectos. ¿Cómo se nota que está aburrido, el puto David cuando viene? Me cago en la puta. ¡Que me dé disfrutar, coño! ¡Pesado! ¡Te voy a reventar la puta cabeza! ¡Me tiene ya hasta la polla, socio! No, hombre. Palanca del final Zen. Avance, lo. Lanzamos 4 avances principales durante el desarrollo, cada uno de los cuales transmitía un aspecto del espíritu del juego. Este es el primero publicado en mayo de 2012. En él se ve una serie de habitaciones rotas y la voz del narrador que les informa a los espectadores que están preparando una nueva versión de Stanley Parable. ¡Reviéntame la boca! A puñetazo te voy a reventar la puta cabeza. Yo, pues está... Me estoy perdiendo, la verdad. No sé por dónde voy ahora mismo. Estoy bastante perdido. Está bastante chévere. Supongo que este es un final nuevo, ¿no? Vale, he bajado por ahí. Vamos por aquí por la izquierda. El mantenimiento. Vale. Zona de guerra. En las primeras etapas del desarrollo diseñamos un final en el que Stanley terminaba en un campo de batalla luchando contra el enemigo. El juego de acción cobraba conciencia y le declaraba la guerra al narrador. Poco después de empezar a construirlo nos dimos cuenta de que era demasiado jocoso y literal para el tono del juego. Además, algunas personas interpretaban que nos burlábamos de los amantes de los juegos de disparos y esa no era nuestra intención. Oh, vale. Este es el final iluminador. Ten en cuenta que estás viendo cosas que ni siquiera has descubierto aún. Claro, estos son, en plan, este es un final para ver todo. ¿Cómo? Espérate. Correos electrónicos al narrador. Después de presentar el segundo avance, le pedimos a la gente que le enviaran preguntas por correo al narrador. Planeábamos usarlas en otros materiales publicitarios, pero nunca le encontramos el lugar adecuado. Aquí puedes encontrar una selección de correos electrónicos. Are you gay? Vale, perfecto. Muy jocoso todo. Subject, gay. Ding dung. No vea pedazo de texto. Venga, aquí, espérate, me voy a poner ya encima en inglés. ¿Qué queréis? Oficina de Stanley. De izquierda a derecha, la evolución de la oficina de Stanley. La primera se creó en 2011, la segunda en 2012 y la tercera en 2013. Simplona, más simplona, mucho más simplona. Analfabeto, me come los huevos. Bueno, yo creo que ya hemos visto suficiente. Vamos a continuar, ¿no? Que es por aquí, entiendo.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let...
Vaya. ¿Y si le hubiera dado a escapar a salir del juego?
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life.
Buen pensamiento crítico. Gracias.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors,
Vale.
he entered the door on his left.
Y yo, ¿qué? ¿Qué te pasa? Vale, vamos a hacer derecha y después vamos a volver.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he
¿Por qué no has entrado a esa puerta? Porque no quería. La vida hay que tomar decisiones, Pedro. O sea, estamos en el juego de tomar decisiones y en serio me preguntas que por qué tomo decisiones.
Then the feeling went away, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Es que soy tu narrador. ¿Volvemos después a esta?
Yet there was not a single person.
Quiero ir al ascensor, tío.
Feeling a wave of disbelief.
Vale, tú me has dicho que me meta.
Oh no, no.
Sí.
I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room. Please take your time.
Gracias. Bueno, ¿qué tal, chavales? ¿Cómo estamos? Has dicho que nos tomemos nuestro tiempo. Nos vamos a tomar nuestro tiempo. Dice el Pedro, ¿por qué no has entrado en esa puerta? Y yo, bien, gracias. No, está bien, gracias. Yo ya he cenado y todo. No vea el putísimo amo, la putísima madre. Y yo, ¿podéis quitarme la mierda de Rider de David Kills? Es que está como resalzado o algo así. Me suda la polla, la verdad. Y yo, Pedro, Adrián, ¿cómo estamos, niño? No te he saludado ni nada, tío. ¿Qué tal estamos, niño? ¿Está todo bien, todo guay? Espero que bien, espero que... Yo, ¿la vía está todavía por ahí o se haya cenado a tomarse 40 cervezas? Metérsela por él. Bueno, venga, vámonos. Seguimos. Pues acabo de cenar, pues yo no he cenado. ¿Habéis visto a este panda? O sea, puedo subir o bajar, ¿no? Pues vamos a subir. Está raro el login. Es lo primero que nos hemos quitado en medio. Y está guapardo, te lo puede decir Pedro. Voy a subir videíto en cuando terminemos los directos. O sea, no sé si lo subiré del tirón. A lo mejor lo subo mañana. No, lo subiré esta noche. Lo edito rápido y hago... Una puta basura. ¿Qué dice yo? Te parto los dientes. Menos mal que no lo has visto, Adri. Y yo, qué tonto eres, Pedro. ¡Qué tonto eres! Porque están como súper iluminados, como si estuvieran incandescentes o algo así. Lo que le gusta a Pedro no es para hacerle demasiado caso. Terrible, oremos. Hijo de la gran... Hijo de la gran... Oye, ¿no está tardando como demasiado? Pues yo le daba... ¿El qué? ¿El qué le dabas? Cariño, amor... Te lo follas, digo. No, en serio, está bastante bien. Y después la sorpresita que había. Sí, a todos y a todos. Oh. Y después ha habido sorpresita que Pedro la ha disfrutado aquí conmigo, así cortito. Yo aquí soy vuestro agujero. Bueno, entonces mañana un sushi, ¿no? ¿Me habéis dicho? El remake de... Y yo, Pedro, ¿para qué dices nada, cojones? Yo quería mantenerlo como una sorpresa. Y yo, ¿podéis abrirme ya la puta puerta? Pero estamos en el mismo sitio, ¿no? Guaso. La pequeña historia de las relaciones entre Polonia y los austrohúngaros. Supongo que por el tema de la Primera Guerra Mundial. Simulador de andar, exactamente. Y esta es recomendaciones para el comité Oversight Committee. Oversight. Como remirar. No sé. Un poco raro. El comité de remirar. No entiendo. ¿Qué está? Oye, ¿me podéis abrir esto un poquito? Hello significa hola, gracias. David, tío. Pero esto no me lleva a ningún lado. Y el pobre panda, tío. Oh, vale. Está cerrado sola.
Okay, I think we all know the drill by now. Blah, blah, blah. Dark secrets, the keypad. Stanley pushes some buttons. Oh, hey, look, it's a new passageway. Quelle surprise.
Un pasillo un poco tétrico. Pero todo esto ya lo he visto, ¿no? Vale, ahora lo que podemos hacer es, en vez de conectarlo, desconectarlo.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Tengo que meterse en la puerta de New Content. Pesado eres, Pedro.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed.
427 era yo, ¿no?
Number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Ahí estoy yo, 427. Básicamente son los estudios, ¿no? Pero hay estudios que son literalmente una... Bueno, mejor no pregunto.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions
me pica los huevos, espérate.
manipulated to accept it blindly?
Vale, ya está. Perdón, lo siento.
No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it?
¿Y entonces?
Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
¿En lo de new content? ¿Qué será? Ah, mira, coño.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking,
Pero ahí hay botones.
working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past
¿No puedo
began
tocar
to
esos
sink
botones?
in,
Yo quiero
Stanley
tocar esos
decided
botones.
that this machinery would never
Aquí hay
again
otra puerta,
exert
por
its
cierto.
terrible power
1, 2.
over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
¿Dónde está el 3? Ahí está el 3. No, ese es el 5. ¿Dónde coño está el 3? ¿Y dónde coño está el 3? ¿Y en serio dónde coño está el 3? Aquí. ¿Me dejáis tocar el 3? No me dejáis tocar el 3, ¿no? No, el 4, mejor dicho. Hijos de puta. Son unos cabrones. Percance.
And when at last he found the source of... Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the
¡No!
control, did you?
¡La ha cagado, no!
After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted?
Sí.
Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent,
Pero...
Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's
No!
emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode,
Nucleares.
eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. but I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley?
Está el puto botón azul.
One solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death.
Fuck.
You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless.
Incorrect.
To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine.
El 3.
But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't.
Goodbye. Hasta luego, gente.
Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until
El 3 ha
a big
dicho,
boom
¿no?
and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say happily ever after.
Bye. O sea, hay alguna forma de pararlo, pero no sé. Es que los botones no son lo que yo... ¡Pum! Vale. New content. O vamos a la sala esta diferente. Es que Pedro, si no, se pega un tiro, ¿sabes? Venga, vamos allá a nuevo content. Venga, Pedro, anda.
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
¿Cómo que new content?
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure. Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's...
Que te apuesta que es una puta birria.
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Gimme the content, Stanley.
El juego sabe perfectamente que no sé saltar, ¿verdad? Que el salto no sirve para nada.
All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
Ah, pues sí que puedo saltar. ¿Estáis emocionados? Esto es el contenido nuevo, ¿verdad? Como me lo estoy comiendo con patatitas, ¿verdad? No, no se puede. Ya está, ya no. El nuevo era eso, el número de salto.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right?
Sí.
Goodness. Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content?
Y más sabrá, me encanta porque el Pedro es súper emocionado. ¡Oh! Y más sabrá, sabemos.
Right there. Hell, I could counter 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh, wait. There's more. Very good. Yes. I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is. That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
¿Qué cojones?
Psst! Stanley! Come over here! In the vent! I want to show you something!
Vale. Me encanta porque Pedro siempre utiliza expresiones como sorprendido y estas cosas que...
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past, and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special, and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
Increíble, tío.
You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Esto va en serio. Esta fue la primera edición de esta mierda. The British Academy of Film and Television Arts awarded to Bruce Stanley Parable. The Last of Us in the category Story. De puta, ¿eh? No lo han cambiado, ¿eh? Los perros asquerosos. The Original Remake. Good times. Como le ha metido la pollita, a los demás juegos, por la puta cara. Smile because it happened. A trip down memory lane, perdón. $1? ¿Por qué $1? ¿Puedo jugar dentro del juego? Go outside, don't play for 5 years. ¿Esto es un logro en serio? Yes, Windows Vista. Unachievable. It's impossible to get this achievement. Ok. Los BAFTA, ¿no? Los BAFTA, sí. Los premios BAFTA. Development Team nominado a la Academia Inglesa de Stanley Parable por la innovación del juego. El juego debutante. Historia. Otra cosa no, pero ellos enmarcar sus logros, poquita cosa, porque si tú me dices, ah, mira, vamos a ver los logros. Uy, qué bonito, qué chiquitín. Vamos a ver los logros. Toma ahí, toma galardón, toma nominación, ¿sabes? Hijo de puta, tío. Tan cerdo. Un logro de verdad. ¿El qué? ¿Eso es un logro? Sí, supongo que sí. Si no, no lo dudo. Si estos hijos de puta son así de hijos de puta. ¿Me vas a cerrar esto ahora cuando...? Espérate.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
No, ¿os estáis dando cuenta de que sus logros, sus nominaciones, están como un poco resaltadas? Porque yo lo estoy notando. Person of the Year. La persona del año y le hacen la foto borroso. Supongo que estos son desarrollos de... Un segundo. Zona de memoria de mantenimiento. ¿En serio? ¿No me vas a dejar entrar, hijo de puta? ¿No me vas a hacer la coña aquí? Pedazo de perro asqueroso. ¿No puedo saltar? No. The greatest wealth is memory. O sea, la mejor riqueza, o sea, la más grande de las riquezas es la memoria. Muerto me voy a cagar, ¿no? La gente juega juegos porque... what they can do inside them. Lo que pueden hacer dentro de ellos y tu juego es bueno, letting them know they can do anything. Y ellos le puedes decir que no pueden hacer nada.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com.
Otro logro.
Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect.
No.
It didn't need anything else. It
Un
didn't
9
need
de
new
10 no es
content.
un juego
It
perfecto.
just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video games.
¿Se está quejando de que el Ultra Deluxe lo ha empeorado o algo así? En plan, de que ya era perfecto y ya no hacía falta tocarlo. Me ha vuelto a abrir la puerta. Vale. ¿De Serious Room? ¿No puedo saltar? ¿No puedo meterme ahí? ¿No me deja? Hijo de puta. ¿Solamente me dejas echar un vistazo desde aquí, desde la lejanía? Hijo de puta. ¿Y por qué me has abierto? ¿No puedo entrar por aquí? ¿Y ahora qué coño hago? ¿Que voy a la sala de mantenimiento?
These were simpler times, Stanley.
Ah, pues sí.
What I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here.
¿Qué habrá por
These
aquí?
reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
Steam Reviews. Contenedores. Literalmente contenedores.
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and
Molesto y poco gracioso.
unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Creo que se está cabreando un poquito, ¿no? Sí. Oye, ¿por qué está ahora lloviendo? ¿Qué ha pasado? No le ha gustado la crítica, ¿no? Creo que no le ha hecho mucha gracia, ¿no? Bueno, pues tendremos que seguir. Un poco dramático el colega, ¿no? Está hasta arriba, ¿eh? Creo que no le gustan las críticas negativas al colega. A ver. Que no se pueden ni leer. Ah, mira, aquí hay otra.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying.
Se molesta.
Stanley, I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did.
No, eso pensaba.
Maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record.
Vaya.
I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
¿Y ahora dónde vamos? Oh, vaya, hay una última.
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button.
¡Uh!
A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Pues vamos para allá.
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot.
Sí,
I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant droning starts to bore you, with just the push of a button, you'll have zipped right past it. It's what the players have been asking for, and I'm very proud to have delivered. No more listening to me rambling on and on and on. No. The Stanley Parable is a game for the people.
And if the people want silence, then by goodness, that's what they're going to get. Well, don't sit around waiting for me to shut up. Go ahead and make me shut up. Here, we'll pretend that I've just begun an interminable monologue, and it goes something like this. The story and the choices. Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy rumination. Well, there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through.
¿Ya? ¿Acá ya? Oh, triste, ¿no? El reloj se ha parado y todo. Vale, vamos a darle. Hostia, se ha caído hasta el reloj y todo. Pero, ¿y esa alarma?
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs down review. The end is never the end, 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 is never the end.
Creo que se ha vuelto loco ya. ¿Y esto qué hacemos? ¿Para siempre, nunca más? ¿Hay un fin? Coño, he tomado por el culo. ¿Cómo se ha roto? Ah, luz. ¿Le puedo seguir dando? Pues sí. Poco a poco creando de Last of Us. Un poco mal rollo, ¿no? Pues estoy doblado. Porque estoy doblado. ¿Esto no funciona? No, no funciona. Veamos a ver qué es lo que hemos encontrado. No, no puedo subir. ¿De coño estamos? Un poco raro, ¿no? Todo eso, ¿no? Ah, no me puedo subir. Oh, vale. ¿A dónde le tiramos? Para adelante, ¿no? Ay. Ué. El botón ya no funciona. Otro final. Vale. Creo. El ascensor no funcionaba. Ya me he tirado y ya he hecho caso a todo lo que me decían. Nos falta una sola cosita, creo.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Que es
Stanley decided
básicamente.
to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ese por aquí, el new content. New content. Pedro, ¿estás por ahí? Nos metemos en el new content. Han puesto un neón, ¿eh?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open
Increíble,
doors,
pero
this was
cierto.
not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge
Creo que Pedro ya no
first,
está.
just to admire it.
Pedro se puede.
Stanley felt lightheaded, butterflies in his stomach. Giddy but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Vaya. Creo que no.
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left.
Y las demás puertas. No me las abres, hijo de puta.
Oh, no. No, it's to the right, my mistake.
Vale, perdón, no te preocupes. Te perdono.
No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking?
Creo que me está
It's
troleando un
clearly...
poquito.
Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please?
Sí, sí.
Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
¿Seguro que es esta? Y me estarás troleando, ¿no, hijo de puta?
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay.
Vale, cierro los ojos.
Get back to, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
Pues listo. ¿Ya lo hemos hecho todo? O se supone que lo hemos hecho todo. Gente, lo dejamos por aquí, ¿vale?